You should continue not trusting the Big Ten and the SEC because they just aren't even trying to hide it at this point.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth, whatever those may be. And this episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, did you know that you can bet $5 if you're a new customer and you get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet? Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Colorado's path to the playoff. It's not very big, but it doesn't not exist. That's the best thing I can say about it. Kevin Borba has nicer things to say. We'll pick every game in the Big 12 this week. But for now, Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, joining me here because a report from Pete Thamel that the president of the University of Baylor extended invitations out
Baylor
to... Yes, Baylor University. That one. That's the one. Sick'em. But the president of Baylor, who's the chairwoman, I should say, of the Big 12 board of directors, said, "Hey, we should have a chat. We should all get together and talk." Yes, that's the university right there on Drake's hat. We should get together and talk about this idea of someone forming a super league, or there's so many changes, or look at the playoff, and now we've got just all these things going on and whatnot. And the expectation is the Big Ten and SEC are not even going to show up. They're not even going to show up at the table, Drake. That makes me think that they're talking about something on their own time and excluding everybody else.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and correct you here because I don't think that it's a, hey, we should meet. It is, everybody together, hurry, quickly, let's meet. Because the actual verbiage here that Thamel uses is urgent need for the presidents and chancellors from the Power Four conferences to gather in person by the first week of December to talk about something. If I am the Big 12 here, or Linda Livingstone, who is organizing this on behalf of the Big 12, I'm probably not doing it because I feel like I'm in a spot of leverage or in a solid position, especially when Thamel goes on to say, sources told ESPN, there is no expectation that any Big 10 or SEC presidents will attend. This is the Big 12 saying, hey, remember those super conference things that were a conversation a while ago that kind of died down? What if those are still happening behind the scenes? Let's do an emergency meeting. And the two conferences that would be at the forefront of those talks said, nah, we're good. That's not very positive if you're the Big 12 or ACC.
I completely agree. And it gives off the vibe of, hey, can you confirm that this has happened? We can neither confirm nor deny that this has happened. Like, hey, we need to talk about the super conferences. Well, we don't need to talk about them. Well, why don't you need to talk about them? Is it because you're not going to do it? We don't need to talk about them. I think what they really would mean in that hypothetical conversation is we don't need to talk about them with you, because the idea of a super conference, I've seen this get thrown around before. This is not a new idea per se, that the Big Ten and SEC would just take their biggest brands because, 14 teams are responsible for 60% of college football viewership or some ungodly percentage like that. But an actual breakaway here, anytime I see this pop up, Drake, my ears tune up and go, no, please don't do that. But what's anyone going to do?
Yeah, there are two schools of thought here when it comes to the idea of a super conference building a 20-team or 32-team or 40-team league that holds the best of the best when it comes to viewership. And on one front, you're killing the legendary Boise State beats Oklahoma, or App State beats Michigan, or the wild, crazy deal in 2007 where a Hawaii or a UCF, or a USF, I should say, get to be in the top 5. But then you look at the product the NFL gives you. They have 32 teams. So if your case is, and my case has often been, Ohio State and Michigan, at some point we get tired of watching them play, or at some point we'll get tired of Georgia playing Penn State. We'll get tired of the big dogs. Will we? We don't, week in and week out, when the top dogs play out of a 32-team league in the NFL, and we don't in the MLB. We don't in the NBA. And those are pro leagues. But guess what? That's where college football is inching closer and closer to, as schools are paying players as employees very soon. And so if we talk about oversaturation of football, I think that case is starting to go away too, when the SEC and Big Ten say, if the pros can do it, we could probably do it at a fairly successful rate as well. They're at least looking into it, and they don't want the Big 12 to be in those conversations.
I think there are changes you could make to college football if you had one centralized governing body that would make it a better television product with more high quality matchups. I think that can happen. This is not the way to get there. This is the completely wrong approach because college football has always been different from the NFL in a lot of ways.
Can I ask you, though, is this approach going to make the SEC or the Big Ten more money? I mean, we say it's the wrong approach for a college football fan standpoint, but will it make them more money? Because that's the actual goal.
It probably would, because they wouldn't have to disperse the money that they mostly bring in to a lot of bottom feeder schools. But allow me to present the case as to why this is just would be such a horrible development if it were to ever gain traction in the college football world out there. If you had literally, Drake, 3 months ago, what are we in the 11th month of the year? Let me do some quick math. Okay. If you had 3 months ago discuss this idea, and heck, you go back, find some episodes, I'm sure you and I did at some point in time, and you'd said, well, here's who you'd put in a super league. You'd want to have this many teams. You'd want to have these teams. Would Indiana have been included? Legitimate question. And this is the objection that I would have to, well, yeah, I like having more big games. That's one of the positive effects of realignment on the one hand. You didn't have to make all of these sweeping changes across the sport in order to get there, but any job can be one coach away from suddenly elevating itself. True. And I think Indiana is showcasing that. They're not the only ones, but they're just the most recent example of, hey, you hire the right guy, you can go toe-to-toe with the big boys. Indiana's playing Michigan this week. I think they're going to beat them by more than 14.
Yeah, how many postseason games has Indiana won under Curt Cignetti? I think the case you'd start to make is that when we get to the actual college football playoff or national championship, when is the last time an underdog won the whole thing? The only underdog we've seen have success is TCU, and they lost 65-7. So to play, honestly, devil's advocate for a conference like the Big 12 that's being left out of these conversations, it's Alabama, it's Clemson, it's by and large a Notre Dame or a Penn State who can't even get to the pinnacle, but they're still going to be included because they have that brand. That is what these conferences are looking for. They don't care about Indiana. They would leave them out. Or BYU, they would get left out. But then they make the case at the end of the year, we would still have the right national championship. And the data backs that up. That's what sucks about this, is because if Greg Sankey sits down and says, hey, if we make a super league of 25 teams, Indiana's not included, but they wouldn't have won the national championship anyway, and he's right. It's a money-first decision that, I mean, you put it right here in the middle of the show title. Another reason to distrust the Big Ten and the SEC. That's why you distrust them, because they're going to move forward with whatever decision makes the most money.
And the amazing thing that they could ponder something like this is these media deals that you and I have talked about for the last 18 months or so, they're just now starting. They're brand new. I mean, Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson are calling Oregon, Illinois, and Oregon, Michigan. That wasn't feasible 2 years ago. It's not how it works. So, like, these contracts are brand new. They're worth obscene amounts of money. They're, $1 billion each for the Big Ten and the SEC, 70 to 90 million. Like, there's plenty of money out there, and I just wonder why. Like, just why? What more are you looking for? Why are you trying to tear at the fabric of something that you have used to elevate your brand and put yourself in a position to compete for a national championship everyone cares about? Because if you go out and make a super league, you're going to have a lot of people that are turned off and say, whatever. Yep. That's just not, that would suck. That would suck. I hope this gains negative traction.
Right. If your question is why, the answer is always going to be money, and there is money made in a product that is refined. That's the case that Greg Sankey is going to make, and it's likely, based on how President Livingstone of Baylor University is acting, how Sankey and others have talked behind closed doors. Really quick,
do you think this has anything to do with the potential of the Big 12 champion not getting a first-round bye in the college football playoff? Because as I've laid out here on the show before, it's entirely possible. Boise State's ranked 12th. Yep. What if Boise State wins their next 5 football games or whatever it would be, including the conference title game, and BYU doesn't win the Big 12? I think Boise State would get a bye in the Big 12. What do you think that is at all part of the conversation?
You can make a case for Boise State or Army, and I would say no. I don't believe that's part of the conversation. What I do believe is an aspect of this actually does go back to how the election fizzled on Tuesday. What happened with most of it, I've read a lot of editorials about, with most of the country going red, we start to talk about, okay, from a legislative standpoint, which is huge now in college athletics, where does that take us? That's at play here, I guarantee it.
Yeah, it is. Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12. Thank you, Drake.
Yeah.
That's a great way. Great way.
Thanks to me, not to Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti.
Yeah. Yeah, That's the way to put it. How do you put Colorado's playoff hopes? We'll talk about that coming up next. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. This episode also brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. They're America's #1 sportsbook. They're not number 2. They're not number 3 or 4. They are number 1. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. You go bet something easy, like, I don't know, Oregon beating Maryland maybe? I have a high confidence that's going to happen. Texas beating Florida, same sort of deal. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL too, and it's all in one place. It's all in one place. That's why it's great. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get 115 bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It's time to discuss everybody's favorite Big 12 team. That's Kevin Borba, Locked On Buffs. We're going to talk Colorado. We're going to pick every game in the Big 12 as well, because there are indeed other teams in this conference who have a much better chance of getting to the playoff than Colorado, Kevin. There are even teams in this conference that have a better chance of being an at-large team. But you and I don't have uniform agreement on this particular front. So when discussing the idea of Colorado being an at-large playoff team, i.e. they do not make the Big 12 championship game and they end the season at 10-2, I'm not saying their chances are 0, but boy, they're pretty close to 0 in my book, especially with the way the College Football Playoff Committee has ranked teams so far.
So we agree, there's a chance. I mean, in the episode. No, realistically, we talked about this yesterday on a group show. And when there's 10 of us trying to talk at the same time, it gets difficult. What I was trying to say yesterday, and what I'll say to everyone right now, is Colorado can make the playoff as an at-large bid if, biggest word in the dictionary, if a lot of different things happen. If you look at the teams ahead of them, I'm going to run you through a quick list, Spencer. I just want you to sort of nod along and acknowledge that this is true or false, right?
You want me to be a yes man? Is that what you're saying?
True or false. You could be a yes or no man.
Okay. I'm allowed to be a no man. That's good. That's good.
I'd prefer you didn't say no, because then it ruins my vibe, but no, it's fine. Colorado, true or false, ranks 20th in the college football playoff right now.
That is a true statement.
That is true, right? And then Kansas State, right above them, number 19. They have to play Iowa State. And Colorado is ranked above Kansas State in the Big 12 standings, and then right below Iowa State, correct?
That is correct.
So those two teams have to play each other. One of those teams is going to drop down, assuming Colorado, and everyone, this is under the assumption that Colorado doesn't lose. Let's just preface this 30 times. If Colorado loses, they will drop out of the rankings altogether. I think, and this is just a take in general, there's no team in college football that has a bigger floor and ceiling than Colorado right now. If they lose one game, everything that they hope for rankings-wise, playoffs-wise is done. If they continue to win, they could go from random Holiday Bowl to possibly making the playoff. I saw you don't like that one as much?
Well, I don't think they're the only team that applies to. I think you can put Kansas State in there as well. Because right now you'd have to say that Kansas State, by the playoff rankings and by virtue of having the head-to-head win against Colorado, has a better chance of being a playoff at-large team than the Buffs do, because they still play Iowa State. Because part of my other contention here, Kevin, and why I struggle to see it for the Buffs is if they play Texas Tech this week and win, and we're going to talk about that game coming up here in just a bit. If they play Texas Tech and win, that's the best win remaining on their schedule. They've got Oklahoma State, who stinks. They've got Kansas, who isn't any good. And they've got, I'm forgetting the fourth game right now, but help me out there.
Yeah, I'll pull it up for you. Continue.
Yeah, but they've got 4 games left in their season, and none of them are moving the needle.
They got so Kansas State has Arizona State, Cincinnati, and then Iowa State. Those are the last three.
Right, but Colorado has got
Colorado. Sorry, Colorado.
I was very surprised you didn't know Colorado's remaining schedule off the top of your head.
I was so set on Kansas State. I was like,
I was like, oh boy, Kevin does not look good right now.
Now we were talking about Kansas State. That makes more sense. And I was like, why would you know?
So Colorado's got Texas Tech, Kansas, Utah, Oklahoma State, and Utah.
Yes.
None of those wins are moving the needle. Now, help is often given in college football to those who hold their own. I say that all the time. It applies to the Buffs. But the amount of help needed, if Colorado goes 4-0 down the stretch, I think it is substantial. It starts with Kansas State losing. It doesn't even come close to ending there, though.
And that's kind of my point, too, is this isn't me saying if Colorado's 10-2, they automatically get in. This is me saying if they're 10-2, pending other things happening, they have a chance. Because you look at their strength of schedule, you just mentioned it, it's 80th in the country, right? The only two teams in the top 25 with a worse strength of schedule, do you want to guess them? I feel like you know one of them for sure.
Indiana is one.
Correct.
And
this one's towards the bottom. They might have even been at the bottom of the rankings.
They were. Got to be Army.
Yep. So Colorado's strength of schedule is only better than those two. That's not working in their favor. The strength of record is 26th, similar to Indiana in a way, not the same degree. Colorado's been winning big lately. Their last three wins have all been by double digits, and they've all been super convincing. UCF, they beat them 48-21. Arizona 34-7. Cincinnati 34-23. That's kind of what Colorado has to keep doing. They need Kansas State to lose. They need Iowa State to lose. And then there's other things around the country that can happen. So we'll go back to the checklist, Spencer. Pitt and Clemson have to play each other. They're 18 and 23rd. I think, obviously, the loser of that game, Gonzo, right? Would you agree with that? 18 and 23rd in the CFP.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. One would presume. Yeah,
and the ACC is looking very one-bit-ish. I think.
Yeah. Oh no, SMU's up there a long ways. They are. SMU can play spoiler here.
But if SMU loses one game big, I feel like they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Excuse me.
Maybe not, but if that one loss comes in the ACC championship game and they're sitting there at 11-2,
that's where it gets dicey though. Because then
I think that probably gets you in.
Because I think you have to pick a team, and this is the hard part with Colorado, is if they don't make the Big 12 title game, which I mean they have to win it regardless if they make it, they have to sort of hope that all of the losing teams and other conference titles, one, got blown out, and two, have like an ugly loss on their resume as well. Like LSU, for instance, they have that early loss to USC. I know that's like a random pull, but that's just me thinking on the top of my head. They have that ugly loss to USC week 1. USC is probably at the bottom tier of the Big 10 right now. So they Colorado
not probably. That's where they are.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Shout out Lincoln Riley. Good thing he banned the media though. That's going to change everything. Back to the checklist. Ole Miss plays Georgia. I think Ole Miss, number 16 in the country, they're very close to sort of not falling out, but I do think that they'll fall out of contention. I think they'll probably be in that 19 to 25 range if they lose.
Well, here's where that gets dicey for the Buffs.
Yeah,
do you really believe, with everything that we talked about earlier on today's episode of the show? I know you weren't here for that, Kevin, but it was about the Big Ten and SEC and how they're just every step, every opportunity they get, they're trying to consolidate and take everything for themselves.
Yeah.
Do you really believe that a 10-2 Colorado is automatically in over every 9-3 SEC team that the league could throw out there? Ole Miss, Bama, or LSU?
Automatically, no. But I think it depends really on the losses. And this is where add it to the list. And we'll sort of consolidate this list at the very end so that way it's more clear. But Colorado, they need to go 10-2. They need to win convincingly. They need other teams, i.e. Kansas State, to lose. And they need those SEC teams to lose ugly. Like if Georgia blows out Ole Miss, like Ole Miss is done, right? Ole Miss
But if to your point, if Georgia wins by a field goal, Ole Miss is not even going to be ranked below Colorado, even though they'll have had a third loss, and one of them is to Kentucky. They won't care. It's the SEC.
That's the hard part, right? And that's sort of like the whole thing that goes with it. But theoretically, I think 3 losses. I'm still kind of on the fence with that, but I feel like 3 losses is the cutoff. Continue on. LSU and Bama, they play each other, 15 and 11th in the country. I think the loser there has means or grounds to fall quite a bit.
They won't fall behind Colorado, though.
You say that, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see. There's going to be a lot of movement. In the next 2 weeks alone, a lot of these teams play. So there's going to be a lot of movement. Colorado has to handle their business. And if they do, they could move up. And then finally, Texas A&M and Texas play. Honestly, if Texas loses, Texas is the biggest question mark in the country for me right now. Is like they're riding solely off vibes and brand, because what win on their schedule is impressive? What's their most impressive win? At Michigan, who's terrible, or against Oklahoma, who was playing their backup quarterback, who's also terrible. And no team in the country has had more luck with quarterbacks than Texas. Again, opposing quarterbacks, excuse me. They're playing against Florida's walk-on from Yale this week. I think the best quarterback Texas has played is
I hope that wasn't disrespected the Bulldogs. I hope it wasn't.
New Haven, great place. Frank Pepe's is there. Loved it there. Diego Pavia is the best quarterback they've played all season. So Texas's resume,
He's elite.
He's really good.
That's the father of Alabama, by the way. The state, just as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, Hugh Freeze hates him. He might cost Hugh Freeze his job. And then Indiana is another interesting team for me, because we talked about strength of schedule. If they lose that one game to Ohio State, right? What happens? If it's close, they're in the mix. For me, if they lose by a field goal, they lose by a touchdown, drop them down to 9, 10, whatever. If they lose by 20, right, which we haven't seen all year from them, what does that mean for them, right? So I feel like there's a lot of things that need to happen. And to summarize, Colorado needs a lot of teams to lose big. They need to win big. And then they also sort of need like teams like Notre Dame to drop a game. Like the teams that we're not talking about right now that sort of are like, oh, they're going to handle business. They need them to collapse, right? This isn't just a clear path. It's about as murky as a path as possible. It's like when you lose service and your phone's trying to give you directions and it's frozen, you're kind of just driving and hoping that it'll reset. And that's what Colorado is doing right now, which isn't a bad position to be in, because once you get service, you could be on the right path. But a lot of things have to happen.
Just the fact that we're even able to have this conversation is a testament to the job Deion Sanders has done, who through all the media hoopla discussion, blah, 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 he's done a good job coaching this program. There's no way to argue that particular point. I'm sure people will find one anyway. Are they going to win this weekend, though? Who wins the Holy War? We're picking every game in the Big 12 coming up next. Guys, ever feel like you need a little boost in the bedroom? It's time you stop worrying about your performance and get Hims, so you know that you can be at your best when you want to be. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. With Hims, you can get personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. The process is 100% online. There's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. HIMS.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Go check them out at hims.com/lockedon. Does BYU stay unbeaten? It's everyone's favorite discussion here on Locked On College Football. At least it's mine. It is my favorite running discussion. Is BYU ever going to lose a football game? Kevin Borba, Locked On Buffs, continuing on with me here on the show. Let's pick this one, Kevin, because BYU is just better than Utah. But it's in Salt Lake City, not Provo. If this were in Provo, I'd say BYU by, I don't know, 40? 50, 70, 1,000. Utah cannot move the football. I love this BYU defense. They are really good. I'll let you make your pick first before I make mine. But how are you feeling about the Holy War here?
Yeah, I think BYU loses somewhere down the line, but not this game. Utah is
not tonight.
Not tonight, excuse me. Yeah, sorry, forgot when this was airing.
No, that was me. That was me referencing Miracle.
Oh, okay.
The Herb Brooks speech.
Got you.
Tonight we skate with them.
Tonight
we stay with them and we shut them down because we can.
Okay. Realistically, Utah's offense is terrible. They made a change to the offensive coordinator the dude was putting out mediocre or terrible offenses in Northwestern. They're like, this is our guy now. Isaac Wilson's just really young. He's really inexperienced. I don't know if their quarterback of the future is on the roster right now. And I just don't think they could put up enough points. And unfortunately in football, you do have to do that.
Yeah, I think scoring points does indeed matter. I talk to our football coach at Southern Utah every week. He says biggest key to victory, scoring at least one more point than the other team.
Facts.
Utah's going to find a way. At home, 31-28. Yeah. BYU fans that have been with me for a while, they get it. They get it. They understand. But BYU's going down this week. Big time.
Jinx action right there.
Yeah, let's talk Colorado Texas Tech, because I go back and forth on this game. Texas Tech is at home. It's not an easy place to go play.
Not at all.
Though Baylor made it look pretty easy a few weeks ago. Texas Tech is up and down, peaks and valleys. They should make a shirt that looks like one of those charts that you would see in algebra class, where it's going up and down and up and down and plotting different points, and then you're connecting those dots. That's the Texas Tech football season this year. We're all the way up here, close to the top of the y-axis, and then as we move along the x-axis, we have fallen all the way back down underneath the y-axis. But now we're back close to the top again. So last week they play really well. They go on the road, well enough to go on the road, beat Iowa State, give them their first loss of the year. The inconsistency makes me go with Colorado. They're favored by 3.5 according to our friends at FanDuel. I think this is a close game at home. I'll take the bus by a field goal, 31-28.
Yeah, I think Colorado wins here. I'm going to give them about a touchdown victory. I'll probably go like 35-28 as well. Or you didn't say that, but 35-28 as well with my brain. Realistically, I think this game has shootout potential. I trust Shedeur Sanders a lot more than Baron Morton. I do think if Colorado wins this game big, it's because Texas Tech secondary cannot slow down this receiver group, which we've seen them not be able to slow down a few people. Sawyer Robinson was not on my bingo card of torching a defense like that, but if anyone could do it that way as well, it'd be Shedeur Sanders. I just don't. I think the atmosphere plays a role. I think this is probably the second most hostile environment they've played in this season behind Nebraska.
Taj Brooks, over 1,000 yards rushing this year. No surprise. That's the guy Colorado has to shut down in this football game, because if he gets going, he will make Shedeur Sanders a spectator in this one, and that's not how Colorado wants to play. Elsewhere, Oklahoma State is looking for their first Big 12 win of the year. Boy, I didn't think they were that good. I didn't think they were this bad. I mean, my goodness, things are bottoming out. They're in Stillwater. It's getting ugly. They're going to Fort Worth to play TCU, who has an offense. They're at home. TCU, waste of a good offense this year in the Big 12 with an atrocious defense. But I like Josh Hoover. I'll take the Horned Frogs 38-17. I think they steamroll Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Oklahoma State is probably the biggest disappointment, maybe in college football, honestly. You go from Big 12 runner-up to right now, they're 0-6 in conference play.
0-6.
Utah, as an offense, has 72 points on offense in Big 12 play, and they are 3 spots ahead of them. So Oklahoma State, not great. Their quarterback situation, we talk about all the time, Spencer. If you don't have a quarterback, we can't trust you. And I think despite how broke their fans are, according to Mike Gundy, they don't have the money to buy a quarterback either. So I guess everyone's just broke over there. According to Mike Gundy, not me.
Tough times. Yep. No, 100%. Speaking of great rushing attacks, UCF going to Arizona State. Sun Devils favored by a field goal, according to our friends at FanDuel. I like Arizona State in this spot. They're just a good football team, and they're even better than I thought. I was high on Arizona State coming into the year from a standpoint of, hey, Big 12 media, you picked them to finish last. Let me guarantee you that they are not the last place team in the Big 12. Lo and behold, they're not, but they're kind of fringe conference title contender at the moment. Like there's a scenario in which they can wind up. Yeah, there's a scenario where they could wind up at the Big 12 championship game. Right. So they've got BYU later this year. Like good times in Tempe for Kenny Dillingham and company. They've earned it with a pair of 3-9 seasons. I think they beat UCF. The Knights are just all over the place. Quarterback questions. They're back and forth and up and down. I really don't like that. I think this Arizona State defense has a really, really good game. I will take the Sun Devils 24-7.
Yeah, I think for those people who didn't watch Arizona State last year, they kind of recognized that the team was a quarterback away from being decent, and they got that quarterback this year to go with a defense that's really, really stout. I think Arizona State's really good. I honestly think they win this game, and then their next 2 games to look ahead, sorry to do this to you, Spencer, is against Kansas State and BYU. I think one of them gets their season ruined by Arizona State. You could agree.
I like that take a lot. I like that take a lot. Arizona State can play with anybody in the Big 12 right now, including, though they haven't played them, Iowa State, who goes to Kansas this week. Kevin, if there's going to be a crazy upset, this would be a crazy upset. And why? You just got to ask yourself why. Why is Iowa State only favored by 3 points against 2-6 Kansas? Why? What does Vegas know that we do not? This should be a 7 to 10 point line minimum, yet here we are.
Maybe it's because it's at Arrowhead, so they're given like the benefit of the doubt, where it's like, oh, the vibes are going to be lit. No, I don't know. I don't trust Jalen Daniels at all. Still, like I'm picking Iowa State. Maybe they're going with their rattled approach, like they just lost to Texas Tech. Iowa State's still a really good football team. Kansas is not, in my opinion. I just don't know what Vegas knows. That's why I'm not a bookie. That's why I'm not an odds maker. So we're gonna find out in like 2 days that all of Iowa State's offensive line is out or something. That's just how things go.
I too do not know exactly what Vegas knows. I think that line a little bit is an overreaction to losing to Texas Tech last week. So I like Iowa State to win. I like Iowa State to cover. But Kansas, they've shown they're capable at times. I'll go 23-17. Cyclones go to Arrowhead and get it done. Last but certainly not least, Neil Brown may be coaching for his job every week, might already be fired. I don't know. They have a winning record in Big 12 play. But speaking of teams that have surprised us this year, Scott Satterfield and the Cincinnati Bearcats are pretty solid.
Not terrible.
Yeah. Not only that, they could be going to a bowl game if they win this one. They're at home. I'll roll with the Bearcats here, 28-21.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with the Bearcats as well. I honestly view this as probably their best last chance to get that 6th win, because they go to Iowa State and then they go to Kansas State the following week. And who knows what can happen after that 2-game stretch when they host TCU. So I'm going to go with the Bearcats here getting bowl eligible. In terms of Neil Brown, apparently he's too expensive to fire. So everyone buckle up. He's coming back maybe.
That's how the Big 12 is playing out this week, and that is Kevin Borba of Locked On Buffs. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.